In this video I'm going to show you how to defeat Lavos in the Ocean Palace. Let's go! Now if you played Chrono Trigger you probably remember this fight because it usually ends like this. And although you're supposed to lose, so Chrono sacrifices himself, you can actually defeat Lavos, end the game early, and as a reward see one of the best secret endings in video game history. Hey, I'm your guide Toby and this is Toby Continued. So Lavos is an alien parasitic life form that came crashing down 65 million years ago, and since then he was feeding on the planet's energy to reproduce, I guess? I don't know, that's a long way to get laid. There are in total 4 different phases when you fight it, but you don't necessarily have to go through all of them. For example, if you start the fight by entering the bucket at the end of time, which you can do early into the game, you have to go through all 4 phases. But if you crash the flying epoch into its outer shell near the end, you can skip the first 2 phases and directly fight its main body. So you can basically challenge Lavos whenever you want throughout your playthrough, but that doesn't mean it's always a good idea. Let me show you. This here is a very scientific graph showing you the difference in Lavos' power compared to your party. Now in the beginning the overall difference is huge because you have no chance to beat his main body and the core. But as the game progresses and you gain additional levels, tags and equipment, the power difference steadily decreases, so in the end you have a real chance. But you can also see that there's a sudden spike again during the middle of the game, and that's where you meet him in the Ocean Palace. Here you skip phase 1 where Lavos imitates other bosses, but phase 2 where you fight against his outer shell is suddenly much harder than usual. And by much harder I mean ridiculously harder. Seriously, he has 3 times more hit points, his attacks do 3 times more damage, and he acts like every 2.5 seconds. But as I said in the intro, it is possible to beat him, and the developers made sure that we can get all the essential items by doing some side quests, which I will show you in a second. Now of course, tremendous amounts of farming can also solve this problem, so feel free to grind as much as you want, but I like to keep the grinding to a bare minimum. Don't be fooled though, you will likely reach Lavos in the Ocean Palace with a party around level 33, and there is no way that you are able to beat him at that point. Some farming is always required. I was able to beat him with a party around level 45, which I think is a nice sweet spot. Now in this special second phase, Lavos deals a ton of physical damage to the whole party and to single characters, and in addition he confuses you and is suddenly much faster than usual. So the damage is not only insanely high, but also comes in very frequent. So we need to find ways to resist his attacks, have enough consistent healing to keep us alive, protect ourselves against confusion, and also deal enough damage before we run out of resources. It's really not an easy task. So let's have a look at our setup and the necessary items and equipment. Chrono is mandatory in all fights because he is still the fixed leader, and I used him as my main damage dealer with his Luminaire spell, which you should have unlocked. Then I wanted to have Mal because of her ability to speed up the party and her potent healing spells, and she is certainly a good choice for phase 3 and 4, but the problem with Mal in phase 2 is her low physical defense and hit points. Regardless of the items I gave to her, she was not able to survive Lavos' attacks. So instead, I chose Wobo and Fork for the second phase because they have naturally high physical defense and also sufficient healing capacities. And then I switched to Mal for the third and fourth phase. Other compositions might be possible, but this is what worked best for me. Now, in terms of items, there are a couple of things you should do before entering the Ocean Palace, and the first thing is Fiona's side quest. So you will meet a girl in Zeal's palace who has a small magical sapling. When you talk to her, tell her to secretly plant the sapling, because afterward you can go back to the epoch and go to 600 AD, where Fiona will have a similar sapling to reforest the area, but she first needs you to clear out the nearby desert cave. Clearing the cave is not trivial at this point, but you have to do it, so hit the enemies with water magic first, including the boss, because otherwise you will not do that much damage. And don't forget to charm the boss, because you can get a speed tab and you will also find some useful equipment like the muscle wing and the Ian suit. But the main reason you want to do the quest is after you clear the cave, you can leave Wobo to work the fields for 400 years, so in 1000 AD there is a huge forest. You can then find a woman inside the Fiona shrine where you can buy some incredibly useful helmets that provide status protection, and that's exactly what we are looking for. Now you have two options. You can either buy Vigil helmets for 50,000 gold each, which have more defense and protect against all status effects, or you can go for the cheaper side caps for 20,000 gold, who provide less defense and only protect against confusion. Oh, and of course, don't forget to get Robo back. Another thing you definitely want to do is going to Medina village and visit the forest ruins, which were initially protected by this energy barrier. Once your pendant got charged by the mammoth machine, you can remove the barrier and get either the reward from the left or right chest. You can only get one reward, and there's a safe helmet inside the left chest, and although that sounds really tempting because it provides auto shield, decreasing incoming physical damage by 33%, you cannot realistically use it because you need to have either a Vigil helmet or a side cap equipped to provide protection against confusion. Now in the white chest is the Swallow, a nice sword for Chrono, and although its high attack power is of no real use because the Lumina spell is based on magic, the Swallow also provides 3 points in speed, so Chrono can attack or support more often. So definitely go for the weapon. Since Chrono will use his expensive Lumina spell quite frequently, it's a good idea to give him a gold start that you can find behind the sealed door in Twan Dome in the future. This accessory decreases mana costs by 75%, so you don't have to replenish Chrono's mana every 4th or 5th round. Now your armor of choice are the two Ian suits that you got from chests inside the Ocean Palace and from the Sunken Desert Cave, and the load vest from Mount Wu. So overall, my loadout looked like this. Chrono had the Swallow, Vigil had Ian suit and a gold stud, while Frog also got a Vigil head, Ian suit and the muscle wing for maximum defense. Robo got the load vest, Vigil head and a speed belt to bring his speed closer to that of Frog, so they can act more in sync with their double tags. And while we are talking about speed, you should give Chrono one speed tab so that together with the Swallow he has the maximum amount of 16, and you should give the remaining speed and magic tabs to Robo and Frog. You can also give magic tabs to Chrono to increase the damage of his Lumina spell, but I found the effect to be negligible and I'd rather have more healing. And don't forget to open the Book of Water, Wind and Fire in that order in Enhasa to uncover the secret room, fight the noose inside and get another speed and magic tab as rewards. Once you reach level 40, you can get even more tabs and additional 10 elixirs by defeating Specure in his Masamune form. He has some nasty spells like Chaos Zone doing high damage and confusion, but thanks to your heads, you are already prepared for that. Magic attack and defense is everything in this fight, as Specure only attacks with magic and is only susceptible to magic, so equip accordingly. You can get more speed tabs by charming specific bosses earlier, and I have a whole video on that topic, so feel free to check it out. And if you are craving more tips and tricks about video games in general, you can subscribe to my channel to not miss any future uploads. Now one last thing that you should do before fighting Lavos is getting some consumables, especially ethers, lapis, full tonics, and most importantly, shields and barriers. You will have most of them naturally if you didn't use them already. For example, I had like 60 lapis in my inventory and I don't even remember where I got them. A couple of full ethers and full tonics are also good to have, but you really need to get like 20 shields and barriers because they temporarily decrease incoming magical and physical damage by 33%. And that is what makes the fight manageable. Fortunately, you can charm shields and barriers from the red and blue scouts in the Ocean Palace. Coincidence? I think not. So when you want to level up and get the necessary gold for the heads, I would advise to do this by simultaneously farming those items. And that's pretty much all the preparation that you can do besides grinding more and more levels. Oh, and by the way, some people say it's a good idea to decrease the combat speed in the options menu because that makes combat slower overall and you have more time to react. Now let's get into the fight. So the Shell of Lavos has 3 attacks that he uses in strict order. First, the fight always starts with Destruction raining from the heaven, which is a powerful AoE attack doing high physical damage to the whole party. Then he will use his Chaos Zone doing low damage but applying confusion, and finally he launches spikes doing even more physical damage to a single target. The best indication that you are able to beat him is when all of your party members survive his initial attack, which is usually no problem for Chrono and Robo, but it might be a close call for Fork. Chrono can start putting shields on characters given that you will also survive the damage of Chaos Zone, whereas Robo and Fork should use their heal wave before the first spike attack. Remember that after the spikes, Destruction will rain from the heaven again, so the character that got hit needs to be healed. And don't ever hesitate to use Chrono for emergency single target healing using full tonics or elixirs. This fight is all about better being safe than sorry. This might seem like you won't ever be able to do damage, but don't worry, you will have more breathing room once all party members are shielded. Unfortunately, there is no indication when the buff is about to expire, so keep your eyes open. You will quickly get a hang on the timings, and depending on how many speed and magic taps you spend on Robo and Fork, you can sometimes even use single tags to keep the party alive. Also keep an eye on Chrono's mana points, because it is unlikely that you can take out the shell without replenishing his mana once. Be patient, keep attacking him whenever you can, play it safe and you will succeed, and that means the hardest part is over. Now switch out Robo with Marl and you can continue to use Fork, but I used Isla instead because she is faster, has more defense and better single target damage to make the fights shorter. You will also not need that much healing anymore, so Isla is a good choice. And don't forget to switch out your equipment so everyone is protected against status effects again. Now the fight against the main body always starts with his lasers of doom attack. This is probably the trickiest part because it does quite some damage, but don't panic. Once you stabilize after this attack, the rest of phase 3 is almost too easy. The worst thing that can happen is after the lasers, he attacks Marl twice with his hands because she still takes a lot of physical damage, but even if that happens, you can still revive her and continue. After attacking twice with his hands, he will do one more laser attack, so you should be healed and preferably also have some barriers up. And yes, the lasers do magic damage, so you should protect yourself with barriers instead of shields. Once you start doing damage with Luminaire, be aware that although you hit all enemies, his left hand has less hit points than his right hand and it will likely go down first. And when only one hand is active, it can remove the status immunity of one of your characters, so quickly destroy the other hand as well. When both hands are destroyed, he will engage his main body and use Obstacle, an attack that will again confuse you if you are not protected. After that, he uses a gas attack to poison your party, a single target nonsense flame attack, and then his Shadow Blaze, which is an upgraded version of Lasers of Doom doing high magic damage to all targets. He then increases his attack power and starts over. I guess this kind of puts you on a timer because he does more and more damage with each cycle, but it usually doesn't get that far because your party will make quick work of him. Once you defeat the main body, you immediately start the fight against the core. Now, unlike what you might think, the enemy that you have to kill is not the humanoid in the middle, but the floating pod on the right side, which has a lot of hit points and that can only be damaged once either the left pod or the middle part is destroyed. The left part has very little hit points, absorbs all magic, and can heal the middle part, and the middle part is what makes your life miserable, having access to some incredibly powerful attacks. This fight is unpredictable, and the middle part's attacks depend on the time zone that you are currently in, indicated by what you can see in the background. Especially the prehistoric and future timeline is dangerous, as during those the center part can cast an ultimate physical and magical attack ability, doing insane damage to your whole party. You should again have the speed advantage, but being caught off guard when the center part unleashes his ultimate attack can instantly end the fight. So my strategy was to quickly take out the left part using physical attacks like Confuse from Chrono and the triple kick from Ayla. Then focus on the center part and mitigate the damage it can dish out by putting shields up in the prehistoric time zone or barriers in the future. When the center part is destroyed, grind down the white pot, and if he revives the other parts, repeat the cycle until the white pot is also destroyed and you finally win. So congratulations, you just defeated the hardest boss fight in Chrono Trigger. Now take your time to talk to all of the game's developers in the secret ending and don't get fooled when this one Quipster says he will restart the game and the screen goes black. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, feel free to leave a like, and if you made it this far, I think you will also enjoy this video where I show you how you can fight a secret boss in Lufia 2 and get the best item in the game. And always remember that this is To Be Continued. Thanks for watching.